So now let's prepare, let's settle into our seats and take a nice breath and prepare our hearts and minds for a time of meditation. You can close your eyes if you wish and take a few deep breaths and let go of any attachments, or distractions or worries. And we'll hear from David Trolley now.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are my family. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are my family. You are the face of God.
Breathing in and out now and settling into this time, into this moment in time. We settle in now. For this is a time for you and me. This is a time for us to know that we are the face of God. I am the face of God. I am. I am the face of God. How could anyone ever tell me that I am anything less than beautiful? For I am the face of God. Breathing in and out now, beginning to relax and settle into this restful time, this renewal time, this time of refreshment, this time of knowing that I am the face of God. Breathing in and breathing out, and then taking in a nice deep breath and holding it for just a moment. And when you're ready, exhale and let the belly drop. Let it drop, let it relax, and begin focusing on the breath again. The breathing in, the breathing out, the ever-flowing, ever-nurturing breath, the breath of the universe, the breath of God, the breath of all that is, the rhythmic breath of the universe. Breathing in, breathing out, the shoulders drop and the jaw drops. The forehead relaxes. That tightness in the shoulders drifts away. The hands become comfortable. The feet feel Mother Earth planted beneath them. And the energy of Mother Earth, the energy of this beautiful planet, flows into each of us now, nourishing us, feeding us, opening our hearts, opening our minds, becoming one. I am one with Mother Earth. I am the face of God. I am Mother Earth. I am all a part of all that is. I am a part of all that is. I am a part of the breath, a part of the breathing in, a part of the breathing out, a part of all the divinity that there is, for I am a divine being on a spiritual, I am a spiritual being on a human experience. And I bring with me all of my divinity. Sitting now in my divinity, sitting now in a time of refreshment, sitting now in a time of openness. I become silent. I become quiet. I become a listener. I open my heart and I open my mind. I open my ears and I open my mouth. And I listen. I listen to the universe. I listen. I listen for guidance. I listen for love. In the silence, I listen. I am the face of God. I am the face of God. I am a part of all that is. You are the face of God. You are a part of me. I am a part of you. We are the face of God. We are a part of all that is. And we have everything we need to move through this human experience. Breathing in and out now and slowly making the journey back to this down movement. We begin to wiggle the toes and wiggle the fingers and Take in another good deep breath and hold it for just a moment. And then slowly exhale and say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.
To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time for every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time that you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to mend, a time to sow, a time for love, no time for hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late. A time for peace, I swear it's not too late.
David Trolley. 'Tis the season for the music of David Trolley. Thank you, David Trolley. That was wonderful. For it's true, isn't it? There's a season for everything, a time to live and a time to die. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today, about how the experience of dying and the experience of living and the tools that we use to make it through both are very similar. We look at the 5 invitations. So I invite you to come along with me on this journey this morning and look at these invitations and to just let go and listen to the wisdom of Frank Ostasaki and to what Martha Krieg shared in her newsletter this time. But 'Tis the season of gratitude as well. Today is, or Thursday is Thanksgiving. And so happy Thanksgiving, by the way. Whatever you're doing on Thanksgiving Day, may it be filled with gratitude. And we begin as a church family our gratitude celebration at Donna Tweltrich's home. Thank you, Donna, for opening up your home. It's always such a wonderful event at your home. Thank you. You can just feel the love and you can feel the gratitude. And so we come together as friends and as a church family to share what we're grateful for with each other, what we have gratitude for. And it's going to be a wonderful event. And I invite you all because, you know, in these crazy times we live in, sometimes it's hard to find gratitude. But in crazy times like these, gratitude is the best medicine for us. Gratitude opens the heart and clears the mind. Gratitude changes our perspective. Gratitude opens the door for love to come in. I hope you'll join us tomorrow and that your Thanksgiving and every day is filled with gratitude. So, you know, last weekend after church, I attended the 11:30 a.m. service at Unity of Walnut Creek. And Reverend Kristen's Sunday sermon was Forgive Your Enemies. Toward the end of the service, and she did go on for a while. It was late too, but towards the end of the service, she asked the congregation, how many of you have forgiven your enemies? And about half the congregation put up their hand. And she looked and she was a little surprised that only half put up their hand, but she then repeated the question. And since it was late and she was going on, and about 80% of the congregation ended up holding up their hand, and I put up my hand this time. And then she repeated the question again, and everybody said they had forgiven their enemies except for one small elderly lady. And Kristen noticed it, and she said, Mrs. Jones, are you not willing to forgive your enemies? And Mrs. Jones says, I don't have any. And she smiled very sweetly. Well, that took Kristen back a bit. And she said, Mrs. Jones, this is very unusual. How old are you? 93, she replied. Oh, Kristen was just overwhelmed. She said, Mrs. Jones, what a blessing and a lesson you are to all of us. Would you please come down in front? Come on, come down in front with me and stand in front of the congregation and tell all of us how a person can live 93 years and not have an enemy in the world. And the little sweetheart of a lady, well, she was so cute, and she tottered down the aisle and she faced the congregation. She took the microphone and she said, I outlived the old hags. Turned around and went back to her chair. I don't know if Reverend Kristen has recovered yet. And don't tell her I used her in this story. So I want to start off by thanking Martha Krieg for bringing my attention to the book, The 5 Invitations by Frank Ostasaki. Martha ended up featured this book in her October newsletter, and I said, Martha, I'm going to steal this because it catches my heart and it catches my eye, because Frank Ostasaki has sat with over 1,000 people in the midst of the dying process. And I can fairly well relate to that as a hospice nurse, and having been a nurse for 49 years and being centered in death and dying and in grief. And so it caught my eye, and he shares some wonderful wisdom for us to look at today. So my talk today is about dying and living, and it's about 5 tools that we can use as we're in the midst of dying, and how these same tools are so valuable for us to use in the midst of living, in the midst of this human experience. These 5 invitations show us how to wake up fully to our lives. They can be understood as best practices for anyone, and this is, I'm quoting Martha Krieg now, as best practices for anyone coping with loss or navigating any sort of transition or crisis. They're practical ways to move into everyday situations. They guide us toward appreciating life's preciousness. Awareness of the certainty of death can be a valuable companion on the road to treasuring our life, living in integrity to ourselves, to living well, to forging a rich and meaningful life, letting go of regrets, and not letting anything be so significant that it closes our heart. Martha says the 5 Invitations is a powerful and inspiring exploration of the essential wisdom that living mindfully and with presence imparts to all of us. So Frank, I'm going to quote him here for a bit. And tell you a little bit about him before I get into the 5 Invitations. He says that death is not waiting for us at the end of a long road. Death is always with us in the marrow of every passing moment. And it's true, isn't it? Death is always with us. As soon as we're born, we're dying. And so it's not something that we like to look at very often. It's not something that we want to face, but it is always with us in the marrow of every passing moment. It's always there. He says she is the secret teacher hiding in plain sight. She helps us to discover what matters most. And the good news is, he says, we don't have to wait until the end of our lives to realize the wisdom that death has to offer. Now, Frank Ostasaki is an internationally respected teacher of compassionate caregiving and co-founder of the Zen Hospice Project. Some of you may have heard of that. It operates in San Francisco. He has offered his guidance and received the wisdom of more than 1,000 dying individuals. In this poignant and practical book, Frank Ostasaki has bequeathed us to a reverent and incredibly deep meditation about what death can teach us about living to the fullest. He quotes the great Zen master Shuang San, who has said to have frequently said, soon dead, as a way of keeping the image and thought of death in his mind and in his heart. Soon dead, he said this to himself, so he could keep that image, that what we want to push away, he wanted to keep that image in his mind and in his heart. And many of us who've been raised in the Western culture are more likely to try to keep death at arm's length. And really, we try to flee from it. I do. And then I have to call myself back because it's part of the marrow of the human experience. But in the East, death is a constant companion, and an impermanence is woven into rituals, is woven through art and cultural happenings. One of these is the creation of sand mandalas by Tibetan Buddhist monks. They're meant to help us see that creation and destruction give us the lessons we need to learn about life. Ostasaki tells us that the 5 invitations are mutually supportive principles, permeated with love, that are reliable guides for being with dying. And as it turns out, he says, they have a relevance for all of us in living a life of integrity, meaning, and purpose. They can be understood as best practices, as Martha said, for navigating a life transition. They guide us toward appreciating life's preciousness. The 5 Invitations is a powerful and inspiring exploitation of the essential wisdom dying has to show about waking up fully in our lives. So what are these 5 invitations? Let me tell you what they are quickly, and then we'll talk about each of them. The first one is, I hope you like these, because take them in and think about them from a dying perspective and from a living perspective. So the first one is, don't wait. Don't wait on things that really matter. When you're dying, if you didn't do the things that really matter and you waited, that comes to your mind right then. That's important. And it really does affect the way that you die. And think about it. What are you waiting on now? What are you saying I'll wait on? What do you really want to do that you're waiting on? And what is it that really matters that you can move into? And how does not moving on it affect your life? Number 2, welcome everything. Welcome everything. Push away nothing. Push away nothing. Be open and receptive to everything, even if it's painful, because resisting pain causes more pain. So be open. Push away, welcome everything, push away nothing. And then bring your whole self to the experience. Don't just bring a part of you. Don't miss out on it. Bring your whole self to experience. Don't let anything close your heart to the mystery of life and love. How many of us do that? How many of us let something close our heart? And it takes away that mystery of life. Instead of getting up each day looking for the mystery in life, we let something take us away from it, and we focus on that rather than bringing our whole self to the experience of living. And when we're dying, allowing ourselves to bring our whole selves to the experience of dying, to be there with it, to move through it as who we really are. And then, we've been talking about this frequently, and I've heard some of you talking about it, about being in the center, staying in the middle. And what Frank says is to find a place of rest in the middle of things. To find a place of rest in the middle of things, in the middle of whatever's going on. Go to the center, be comfortable right there in the center, and take a rest. Take a rest. Stop and take a breath. Take a rest. Whatever it is. In the midst of living, in the midst of this human experience, stop in the center, be in the center, and take a rest. And in the midst of dying, stop for a minute. Center yourselves. Know that I'm centered right here and right now. All is well. And take a rest before you move on. And this is an interesting one. Cultivate, don't know mind. Don't know mind, K-N-O-W. Except that we cannot know how or why things happen, ever. There is more to it. In other words, don't worry about it. Things happen. Things happen. And we don't have to, we can't know why. And there's more to it than we really even need to know. So cultivate a don't know mind. Ostankowski, Ostateski, there we go, says, we die as we live. But in his experience, he says, that's not entirely true. But suppose we live a life that turned toward what death had to teach, rather than trying only to avoid the inevitable. We can learn, he says, a lot about living fully when we get comfortable sitting with death. For when people are dying, it's easy for them to recognize that every minute, every breath counts. When we're dying, it's very easy to recognize that every minute, every second, every breath counts. But the truth, he says, is that death is always with us, integral to life itself. Everything is constantly changing. Nothing is permanent. This idea can both frighten and inspire us, he says. Yet if we listen closely, the message we hear is don't wait. Don't wait. Andrea Sherman from the Samai Institute took a look at the 5 invitations, and she tells the story. She talks about her reaction to the 5 invitations, and she brings into her article the story of the sudden death of her mother and what she learned from this event that helps her move through living. She says that don't wait is the first of the 5 invitations, and it invites us to embrace the impermanence of life, to welcome each moment, and to be engaged. Everything is constantly changing. Things come together and they fall apart, don't they? Things come, oh God, I'm having such a good day. And then all of a sudden, the phone rings and you hear something you don't want to hear, and then they fall apart. Nothing's permanent. Nothing is permanent when you think about it. So she says this, that everything is constantly changing, but don't wait, because you never know. Don't wait. Do what is yours to do. She says, this was certainly true when my 80-year-old mother, Mimi, elected to have back surgery. She tried a cane, she tried a walker, she tried a wheelchair, but she was in extreme pain and very deep pain. And she could no longer walk the track she loved, and she hated being dependent and dysfunctional. She entered the operation for the back surgery, and she decided to have it. She entered the operation alert and alive, and came out of the back surgery in a coma. She had an aneurysm and now was on many machines in the hospital. Life was very fragile. She was vulnerable, as we were, as she and her family were. Life comes together and life falls apart. Suddenly, she was dying. I had to accept the very deep sleep that she was in. Andrea says, I will never forget my mother Mimi lying there in the hospital bed. Green shower cap on her head, green hospital gown, pearl nail polish on her toes and on her hands. So beautiful. The sounds in the room were the bleeping of the machines, which were keeping her alive. Tubes in her arms, in her mouth, medicines dripping into her. My mother Mimi did not wake up. So don't wait. Don't have regrets. Tell someone that you love them. Say goodbye and shower down your golden love to others, because you might not have another opportunity. Embrace impermanence, embrace change, for we never know. So don't wait. Don't wait. Get out there, get up in that airplane, put a parachute on, and jump. Don't wait. Make a commitment to come to church every Sunday for 2 years. Don't wait. You don't have to do that one. Welcome everything. Push nothing away. Andrea says this, the second invitation calls us to discover what death can teach us. This invitation invites us to open and to push away nothing, but give our attention to what is there in the many experiences of dying. That's hard to think about, isn't it? To open up to the dying process, to be aware of what's going on, to let go of the, I don't want this to be happening, it can't happen, the denial of the impermanence. She's saying, don't push this impermanence, don't push this dying process away. Open your arms to it, welcome it, and be with what's going on, be with that process. In the midst of living, be with dying. I can tell you through all the many experiences that I had with people who were in the dying process, those that were open to it, were not pushing it away, not trying with all their might to fight it, had so much more happiness, had so much more joy in the human experience during the dying process. This invitation invites us to be open to what is happening, both the pleasant and the unpleasant, with our fearlessness and with our love. Accepting life and death as it is with an open, receptive approach, we bear witness to our suffering and to the suffering of others. We let it in. We let go, knowing that love heals. She says that this invitation asks us to open the doorway and to accept life as it is, to see through any obstacles, and to accept the conditions as they are. And then bring your whole self to the experience. This invitation asks us to include and accept all parts of yourself. Respect what is there. Don't run away. Isn't that what David Trolley was telling us in his music today? How could anyone ever tell you that you're anything less than beautiful? You are the face of God. You are a part of me. And for every time under heaven, there is a season. There is a season. So this invitation encourages us to be authentic and to bring our humanity to our caregiving. This includes, and what we bring includes our brokenness, our feelings of helplessness as a caregiver, and our inner critic and judging self. To bring your grief and the powerful emotions that arise with it, as well as your compassion and your empathy, your bodhicitta and your awakened heart, your compassionate caregiving. Bring your whole self. Don't try to hide a part of yourself. Don't let yourself try to want to be something other than what you are. Bring your whole self. Wholeness does not mean perfection. It means no part left out. With acceptance, what emerges is a deep trust in what is, what truly is, not what our story is, but in what really is. The good one. Find a place to rest in the middle of things. This invitation reminds us that it's important to be in the present moment, without distractions, without awareness and mindfulness at the bedside of those who are dying. And to also be that way in the midst of living, to be that way with ourselves in the midst of living. I invite you, the next time you have the privilege of being with someone who's dying, be in that present moment. Be right there with them. Be in the midst of their love. Be in the midst of their energy. Be one with them. And learn and feel and know. And then use what you've learned with yourself as you move through an experience that we're all going to move through. To share your courageous presence with a strong yet vulnerable heart. A place of rest, a pause is always available to us. We can bring our full attention to the spaciousness of this present moment without distractions, without anxiety, fear, and worry. We can do less and feel this moment. And now, resting in an open awareness with our breath, present and vulnerable. Take a rest. Take a rest in the middle of things. Today, in a minute, right now, if something's coming up, take a rest, stop, take a breath. It's always available to us. We just have to do it. And then last but not least, cultivate a don't know mind. Andrea says, this invitation asked you to bring your beginner's mind with its many possibilities to the dying experience, to go into it like a child, to bring an openness, to bring openness without expectations, surrendering to the journey of life and death, surrendering to the journey of both life and death. Bring your curiosity, bring your wonder, and bring your don't know mind, your receptivity. I don't prejudge it. I don't have a story going on about it. I let go. I stop. I'm taking a rest in the middle of it. I allow the monkey mind to stop. I allow all those thoughts to settle down. And I become open. I become open in the midst of the living experience. And I become willing to become open in the midst of the dying experience. Cultivate don't know mind, accept impermanence then. Let go, be open, accepting everything, fear, anger, pain, without attachment to outcomes. We empty our minds and open our hearts. Andrea continues talking about this last invitation, bringing her mother into it. As she was sitting there, she writes this, listening to my heart, not knowing, resting in the intimacy of the moment, I cradle my mother in my arms, breathing together, aware of the gaps and spaces between her breasts, using the breath to come into the present moment, intimate, together, not knowing how long her dying would take, holding her, breathing together, chanting, Om Mani Padme Hum. Each breath, a letting go, a lingering between two spaces, between life and death. I hold you gently, gently holding you. Excuse me, gently holding you, my mother. A profound experience. Your skin grows cooler, and you are in my arms. The blinds are open, and the sun is rising as your life is setting. Breath, no breath. I am here with you. Blessings, my mother. Excuse me. Breath, breath, no breath, breath, no breath. Dying. Love. Cultivate that don't know mind. Take a rest in the middle. Don't wait. Get up and go and do it. Accept the invitation. Have a great week. Thanks for being here today. Amen.